We've been talking about sexuality and particularly masturbation and pornography. I want to talk about that again today and talk a little bit more about pornography and maybe how to get through it. You know, the biggest sex organ that you have is here in your brain. That's where it all begins. And that's where it ends. And that's where the fight really is. And if you remember that, then it gets a lot easier. Now, I get a lot of mail daily from people struggling with masturbation and pornography. And masturbation isn't something the Bible even talks about. I think it's almost a non-issue. And I know that some are going to disagree with me. That's okay, you can. But I don't think it's the point. I think the point is the difference between sex and lust. Pornography definitely gets into the area of lust. And lust isn't sexuality, it's addiction. It gets into the area of addiction, and it's not the way God created things to be. So when you take a look at sexuality in our society today, it's very different today. These days, it's okay to live with somebody before you get married. It's okay to have multiple sexual partners before you meet your wife. And sometimes even people that get married actually have sex, outside of marriage and consensual, that it's okay with both husband and wife that happens. I don't understand that, and yet there are people that do. All kinds of things that hit us from society, all kinds of things that we're supposed to believe should be normal and we ought to just let happen. And so with all of these things feeding our brains, all of these things feeding our sexuality, it's really difficult to take a stand and say, this is wrong, I won't do it, especially when so many people find it just okay. It's one of those political correctness things these days. And it's sad because it really messes a lot of people up. If you carry pornography into your marriage, it'll absolutely mess your marriage up. There is no doubt about it. It will happen. So it's something you have to get taken care of before that time. And for those of you that are married and still struggling, you really need to get this under control. So once again, it starts with your brain. You make a decision and you decide to fight the battle before the battle. Now, I said yesterday that it's a big battle. It affects the part of your brain that crack cocaine does, addiction. And so it's not an easy addiction to take care of, but you can. It is possible. You can do it. It's just that you have to decide to, and you have to make a plan for it. So the first thing is to fight the battle before the battle, as we've talked about before. Plan what you're going to do when you get to that place where you're tempted, that you can automatically make a decision and you've given yourself an escape plan. How you're going to deal with it and what you're going to do instead. And secondly, threshold thinking. Take the thought captive at the threshold of your mind when it first comes in. The trailer will always happen, but you don't have to play the movie. In other words, the commercial and the movie are two different things. And you can decide not to watch the movie in your brain. So those two things, and I realize we could spend months on the subject, and we're not going to, but those are a few things these last few days, that some advice that I wanted to give you. If you haven't made a plan for this, start doing it. If you don't ever make a plan, you'll never get rid of the problem. So fight the battle before the battle. Decide what you're going to do when the lust monster attacks again. I hope that you really get through this difficult problem. So many people are struggling. I understand it's a difficult struggle. I didn't grow up with pornography, and so I didn't have the same connection with it that a lot of you have. And it's just thrown at everybody these days. And I understand that it is an easy thing to get addicted to, but you don't have to. You can break the chains. God bless you. Have a great day.